Hello, fantastic. I'm back live. Welcome to Spacelink TV. We are looking at Mars again today. And we're gonna look into one of my absolute favorite areas on Mars called Fields of Jatan. I'm gonna take you there in just a moment, and I will start saying thank you for tuning back into Spacelink TV. And remember to click like, subscribe, and share the video as well. And you can always comment in the comment box here on YouTube. I am up for a little chat if you are watching, and we can discuss a lot of images on Mars. Let me get to where I want to get us to. I want to get us to, not to here, I want to get us to this one here, Field of Jatan. This is where we are now. And I'm gonna get us up in full screen. We are looking at a satellite image from the Mars Reconnaissance orbiter. It's taken from a distance at about 250 kilometers away, so it is a little bit away, but it's taken with a high resolution camera that really can get close up images. This is state-of-the-art cameras sometimes. Let's have a look at it, because we are on this gigapan here where the whole image has been downloaded, and the reason I'm using the gigapan is because it's easier to work with than it is with NASA's JP2 tool, as long as you know the gigapan is uploaded in the highest possible quality, and I know that is uploaded in the highest possible quality, so I trust this gigapan. But this is an interesting area, and before we get in too close, I want to tell you a little bit about it, because you are looking straight down. You're not looking from an angle with a slant on. You're looking straight down. So if you see a square block, it would be like looking at the top of a little square house, for example. So you can't see the walls on the side. You can only see the top of the side. That's the difference from the Mars Reconnaissance orbiter and the older Mars Global Surveyor that had a little bit of a slant on, so we got it a little bit more in a 2D, 3D version. But still, this is amazing. This is one of the best images ever from Mars, and there's so much going on here. There are so much going on. I want to start up here in this area here, because I've been here before with you, and you've seen this one before. We have all these rocks all over the place, everywhere. There's nowhere that ain't covered, and then just suddenly in the middle there's a big chunk missing. Where are all the rocks that was here? I'm like a little bit baffled. Because you can see they are all over, and they're not just naturally not there in that little square. So something has been going on, and we can get closer and closer, and it's clearly to see that there are literally almost no rocks left here, and it's been like dug up or taken up. It's an amazing picture, but what is it actually telling us? It tells us a lot. Because to remove rocks in a place like this, you either need to be airborne, or you need some technology to transport it on land to remove it with. And I think that what was on Mars had the technology to move the rocks on land with some kind of anti-gravity mechanism. I'm thinking a little bit about the Coral Castle in Florida, and the man who built it. I forgot his name now, of course. and he claimed to have the knowledge about how to remove blocks with anti-gravity. He never revealed his secret, but he had secrets, and we know it. He did something, and he removed the whole Coral Castle from one location to another location alone over a few nights. So it is possible. So what could we be looking at here? Why is there a big chunk missing here when you can see the whole area is covered? That's not a coincidence. We got another one over here that's interesting as well. And when we go deeper into it, you can see it's like a deep hole. From where my arrow is up here and down to the bottom, there's at least 45 to 65 meters. That's about 100 feet minimum 120, 150 feet. That's about what I said in meters, 50 meters, 60 meters. So how is that possible? What are we looking at in the bottom? To me, it looks like some kind of wall still standing on an underground structure. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it looks like. I've been told that these are sand dunes, but again, how would sand dunes occur in the bottom of a hole on Mars? I'm not quite sure how that would work out, but have a look, and I'm gonna leave the picture here. Have a look at the rocks around it, and notice how many absolute square blocks there are. I'm not saying that all that is a square block is artificially made, but just have a look around and you can see over like here, it seems like they are chopped out and in specific ways, and you got like big blocks here ready to pick up and move where they already pre-cut these rocks here. What are we looking at? There seems to be some kind of order in some of all this also when you are looking around on the image. And I'm just gonna get my live chat up here if I can figure out how to do it here. Let me go in here. We are live. Oh, and I even put a picture of the Baltic Sea. Normally that's amazing, Thomas, but hey, that's the way it is. We are live, and please feel free to use the live chat. I just got the chat up here. There's a Susan from Australia. Hello, Susan. Yeah, they are really, really interesting. And what's also interesting is look at all these. I was first told they were mud cracks, and they were quite natural. So and mud cracks, they are quite natural. But I am gonna ask a question: how many mud cracks would continue uphill and downhill? No, mud cracks don't do that. These are specifically designed. Looked over here, you got this little, I call it path canal going here, and then you have an elevated area that it actually continues up in. So you can rule out mud cracks. These are not mud cracks. They are going up and down and around, and they are interconnecting everywhere. I think we are looking at something from an ancient time that was used as a canal system, that there was actually water in these canals here. And I'm gonna show you why, because this is a really big picture we got going here, and I easily gets lost. But look around here and check some of all these connections out here. They don't look like they are natural created. There are too many like angles to it and connections in between. And I want to find what I described earlier in another video as a little roundabout. Here we are, we got it up here. Check this one out, guys. If I say all these are canals that you transport big blocks of rocks on, that you want to work with or carve, or you want to use the material out here, you would need some transportation. If these are water canals, look at this. This is not a natural coincidence that this just suddenly is what we call an island or a roundabout in the middle, connected with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connections, exit entries from around. This is not a coincidence, and I do not believe these are mud cracks. I've been going through them a long time before, and it's the same when you go down here. There's almost no rocks down here, almost no rocks in that in the black area. And why? How can that be when you got this huge area where there's nothing but rocks? It's because it's cleared out. It was a pathway, it was used for transportation, so the area had to be cleared. Just like we have ships driving in our canals, not driving, sailing in our canals, and are cleaning up the canals, and sometimes digging it a little bit deeper, and so bigger ships can come in and clean up. I think that is the same thing that is going on here. Now you gotta hold on when I tell you from here where we are to the other side is about 50-60 meters. What would that be? 1 meter is 3.28 feet. So we are up at about 150-200 feet. So these are not small canals. These are the same as you see, size as you see in Amsterdam, for example, or in Copenhagen. These are not small mud cracks or pathway. These are actually pretty big. So looking at the connection point here, that does convince me that there's definitely something artificial going on here. There can be no doubt all these big main access points here are all meeting in one place, and that's just not natural with the ring they connected. You can even see the one that we follow here even takes a last turn to connect to the ring in here, to the island, roundabout island, or what it is. So it looks very much artificial. Also, when you look along the lines all the way, you can see they are very smooth, and I think that would be the same if you look at a canal in Amsterdam or Copenhagen from Google Earth. You will see like sides that looks like this, that are very smooth and straight, sorted out. And I think that's the same what we are looking at here. The only difference is that this is thousands of years old, and there's no more water in it. It's probably sand and dust. But again, there has been other theories about these pathways, that they are not waterways, but they are actually anti-gravity roads. Not mean there's anything magical to it, but if you look at what I said before with Coral Castle and Edgar's, that's the name? I forgot his name. That did the Coral Castle. He used an anti-gravity device, and all we know is he had some copper threads that he twisted around whatever he wanted to move, and he had some device that sent some kind of vibration frequency into those copper threads, and he could actually lift the rocks. So if these are just sandways, and you are using the same technique as on Coral Castle, then these would be perfect just with sandways, and there probably might never have been water in it. But one thing is for sure, they are access roads, and they are interconnected in a way that you can't discuss. Not with me, that this is not natural. This is definitely a connection point that's made here for transportation and distribution. True blue. I agree, most marks could be either waterways or roads. Exactly. Hi from Scotland again. Hello Scotland, and welcome back to Spacelink TV. We are on Mars, and we are looking at big holes. We are looking at rocks, and we are looking at waterways or roads. And right now we are looking at this connection point here. I am going to zoom out so you can get a feeling of the size of what we're looking at. But this is a huge area, a huge. I'm from Denmark. This wide area here is probably bigger than Copenhagen city itself. So we are in a huge area here, and what goes through in all of the areas that's the same are these connection point and access point. And as I just said before, it looks so artificial when you just suddenly see a roundabout like this where they're all connected to. And yes, Susan, it looks just like a map, and that's what I've been saying too. In the beginning I was thinking, is that a city we're looking at from above? But no, these are rocks, and I think that the whole area is an ancient quarry site where they took whatever they needed and they gave the rock the treatment they needed on the spot, took it with them to wherever they needed and finished the working with the rocks somewhere else. They took them out of the areas here. I want to take you around because I've seen so much in it, but it's so big, so I'm just gonna take it slowly and go in a little bit here. I hope that I'm not too blurry on your screen. I got a little bit of a lagging connection here. But it is interesting. It is really, really interesting. If you look at, for example, a rock, you can see these 6 rocks here. It looks like to me that this was one rock at one time that's been chopped up into smaller pieces. But again, if I claim that this is what happens here, what about all the others? This also looks like one rock that's been chopped up and might be a part missing somewhere that they needed. All of it looks like it's been together and it's been chopped up and carved and people have taken out what they needed. Let me find some of the better examples on that, and there's a funny little triangle there also. And here again, this is one of the roads we talked about before. You can even see it has a turn here, so there's no way it's continuing up on an elevated area, so it's actually going uphill here. So there's no way this is a mud crack. I don't believe in mud crack in this one. I believe we are in an ancient quarry site that was used and mined, and the ancient people up there used rocks just like we use stone and concrete and bricks, and that was for them their main foundation in construction and buildings. I've got a little bit of lacking of internet here, so my screen won't clear up, but I hope you can have a good look at it. And Susan is writing, it really is interesting. It is really interesting, and when you go, this is the closest we can get, and you can see angles on the rocks out here. But what I said before is that everything here is like shattered, cracked, everything. So either it was all an ancient area or something exploded that basically made everything on the surface crack. And the only thing that would be able to do that is something that would give a seismic explosion, which would be the after effect of, for example, a nuclear explosion or a Brent bomb. But again, that's a wild claim to come out with just by looking at this. But it does look like that everything that once was here is shattered to pieces, because you can see there are many of the rocks. Again here, this was one rock. It's so clear to see that these 1, 2, 3, 4 here, probably 5, 6, was part of the same rock that has been chopped up. There's a little part missing here, and everything looks like it. So something either exploded and everything was cracked from a seismic explosion or aftermath, or somebody basically mined the whole area over thousands of years. So what do you guys out there think we are looking at? Do you think we could be looking at an ancient mining area with small pathways to distribute whatever you chopped up to a location from where you can distribute it further? It looks like there has been some sort of infrastructure when you're looking at it, and all these connection points are amazing. It seems like there is a higher connection between it all. I find this so amazing. And true blue, there might be important minerals they could have needed in the darker open mining regions. Yeah, and that's the thing. No matter what planet we will go to, or if it's Mars, the moon, or no matter where we go to, the first thing we will be looking for is resources. There will be minerals, there will be resources to build with, also to construct with. We are in a construction phase, so we would be looking for resources like and minerals, of course. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, minerals and resources, and I think that's what they've been doing here as well. And I remember finding lots of really strange looking rocks. We are back again on top where we started before, where somebody just took a chunk out and made a 60-meter wide deep hole into the ground. And these were supposedly to be sand dunes, but I don't believe that these are sand dunes. It looks more like somebody had a gigantic digger with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth in it that just took a bite of the ground and left a big hole. It's amazing. There is a big hole with this one here in the bottom. Saying that it's sand dunes, I don't believe in that, because let's look at a sand dune. Here you got a sand dune. A sand dune is lying on top of the ground. A sand dune will probably move itself with the wind, with the meteorological environment around it, would change it over time. This is a sand dune. If you look over here, this just don't look anything like a sand dune. And how would a sand dune end up in the bottom of a hole and create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dunes that looks like walls, all similar sizes, when there in reality shouldn't be any wind down here? It's down in a hole. So I don't buy the sand dune theory. I just don't buy it. But it's interesting. It's really interesting. Let's see here. What is Susan writing? What if there is life within? There is life within Mars. I believe there is life. We've seen so much evidence of life on Mars. Also, when we look at images of this, and again, this was where I started, and I said there are rocks all over. And if you look, it seems like there's a structure to some of all the rocks, the way they're cut and shaped. And then again, you have this area where there's just no rocks. Where did all the rocks go in this area? I don't believe that this area was born like this, and then there was a like 40 times 40 meter wide hole where there's just no rocks in it. That's somebody took a dig here, a pile of rock with them when they left. And when I say structure to the rocks, there's a lot of structure to it. You can follow my arrow. You can see they're just like lined up, and you see the same down here. You see these lined up rocks. Normally if rocks would crack, they would crack in all kind of directions, but one thing is going through on the most of the picture, and that is all those straight lines there are in the image. Feel free to comment and join me in the comment box here on YouTube. We are on for a little while still. We got a huge satellite picture that's so big that we won't even be able to finish up on all of it if we spend 24 hours. So we got material here for a little while still to talk about. And I think it is amazing. As I said before, also I talked about structure within the rocks. You can see again, like here you have all the way down a straight line, all the way down a straight line. And I'm thinking, if these are transportation and pathways, maybe these are just for the smaller. There would be like, this gap here would be like 3 meters, maybe 4 meters. I don't think it's much bigger. So these cracks are no bigger than a human-sized man could easily walk in between them. But again, I say it looks organized. It looks like they're all like chopped in an organized way and just been left there for years and years and years. And this is what it looks like now, thousands of years later. And again, we got some sand dunes here that tells you that what we were looking at before in the other hole up here definitely ain't sand dunes. I think there are some kind of walls underneath. This is amazing. We are on Mars and we are in an area that's called the Fields of Jetan. And again, here's a good example of what I said before with structure. See this was one big rock. I'm 100% sure this was one big rock. But they chopped it up, they took whatever they needed, cracked it, and took what they needed. This is what's been left. They even made a little gap in here from after they've been cracking it up. They've probably been taking pieces or parts of it. But again, it looks so organized. You've got like an arch shape here also. It looks so organized, cut and chopped and left. It's hard to believe that it's all just natural. And again, we're looking at some of the pathways here. And you can see these pathways, I said most of them were cleared, but there are a few places where there are still a few rocks there, but in general all these black pathways are cleared. And I do believe that they were used for transporting the areas, for transporting the rocks that were sticking out in this area from A to B. And here's an interesting thing. Here's a really interesting thing. I'm glad I saw that again. I've seen this one before. Because as I said before, it looks like they're chopping out things from the rocks and taking the pieces that they need and leave the rest. If you look at this one here, you can see they've chopped out a round block, and you can see the edges here that's still there, that was not used, are still left there. I think that's kind of amazing to see, and you can even see the circular edge here from where it was chopped. So this is why I say I believe this is an ancient mining area, when you can see there are parts of the rocks that are missing, and rocks this size don't go missing. Why would they go missing on a planet with no life on? By the way, while I am on to it, a big shout out to some of my good friends in the anomaly community. That's Chris Maroney from Mars Anomaly, and of course David Gannett from Mars X3D. That's also has been covering a lot of the stuff I'm doing here. A big shout out to them. Go check out their YouTube channels and tell them I sent you, and say hi from Thomas from Spacelink TV. That's two good channels I would like to do some advertising for sure. Mars Anomalies with Chris Maroney and Mars X3D with my good friend David Gannett. Go check them out. They are awesome. But I'm not done here, and I'm talking about the patterns. The structure I said I see in the rocks. This is what I mean again, structure. Some of the areas are really structured. If you zoom in here, look at the rows of rocks. Look at it. They are lined up, they are chopped in lines, and I think they basically chopped everything up, and they had technology to look at it from above, and they had AI, so they had their secret little eye in the sky, look at the area and chopped it all up, and that little AI would know exactly where they could find a rock, that side or this side, so when they needed it, the AI would tell them where in the area they could find it. They just chopped everything up they could. That's a little bit of a crazy theory, but if you look at the picture, it does look like they chopped everything up they could. Rocks, cut them all over and made blocks of them, shaped them and all that. Notice this round one over here again. And you can even see it's cut in it, but it's still, you can still see the whole rock. It's kind of amazing. It's pretty cool. Susan said, yes, it looks like a mining area. It does, yeah. And Gerard Sinclair, Anomaly System. I think that's probably French. I'm sorry, I do not understand one word of French, my friend, but I'm sure it's a positive comment you came with. Thank you for that. Mars Anomalies and Beyond. Chris is great. Chris is one of my good friends. I met Chris at the Mars conference in Alabama. I've met him 2 times now. Did I meet you? I think I met him 2 times now at the conferences over there in 15 and 16, and that's where my friendship with Chris Maroney began, because he is an awesome guy, and we could tell some funny stories from the Mars conferences. That's something that we ended up laughing a bit at, but I think I better keep that part of it here for myself. But yeah, we had some good time, and we did have a beer or 2 and some pancakes at the Waffle House. So Chris is awesome, absolute, and so is David. Everybody loved David. And while I'm at it with the Mars conference, it is a funny little story, and I'll happily share it with you. But me, Chris Maroney, and David Gannett was together with Ken Johnston. Ken Johnston, those of you that don't know who Ken Johnston is, he's the former director of downloads from Apollo images, and he is the one that saved all the original images after that NASA has digitalized them all, and he was also the one that could reveal that all the digitized pictures were actually fake and there were things missing in it. That was Ken Johnston. We met up with Ken Johnston. He worked for Northrop Grumman for many years and had a contract with NASA. We went up there, and this waitress in the Waffle House simply fall in love with Ken, and she wouldn't leave him. She was literally hovering over him, and she was so in love with poor Ken that couldn't get 2 words with me, Chris, or David Gannett either, because this woman was in love and wanted her pictures taken with all of us, and oh, Ken, my hero, and yeah, we I think Ken he liked it, and we laughed at it. That was quite fun. So we had to do the fame walk and had our pictures taken at the Waffle House, so we could come up and hang on the famous wall of famous people they had in the Waffle House. Go check it out. It's in Alabama, and I can't even remember Waffle House where it was. Anyway, that was a funny little story with the anomaly hunting team when we are meeting for real life events. So that's cool. That was cool. Back on Mars, I'm waffling away here now about everything else than Mars, but I believe the demise of Mars may not have been natural. This may have been all that's left after it has been farmed for all its resources. That's True Blue that says that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I agree a little bit to it. Yeah. I think that everything that is left here is what's not been used. This is from when the surface was still inhabited. And when the surface was still inhabited, I would compare it to planet Earth. We have mined here ever since we were able to hold onto a shovel. We have been driving rocks away, moving rocks away ever since we invented the wheel. So why shouldn't it have been the same on Mars? And if this catastrophic event on Mars happened 12,000 years ago, or in 1981 to 1984, I'm gonna get into that later. That's a good question, because we probably won't get the answer to it, but there was something happening to Mars. There was a catastrophic event going on, and when I say that, it's because we were talking about surface, living on the surface, and comparing it to Earth. Yes, it works just like on Earth. We had mining areas, we have quarries where they could go out, and if you wanted to make a statue or a monument or something, you went out to get a rock that full size, had it transported to where you wanted it, and then you chopped it out with your technology at the spot, and probably melted it into wherever you wanted it. But that's about saying that we have surface life on Mars once. I don't believe that we have that surface life on Mars anymore. It's moved inside, if you can say so, into inner Mars. And that is, of course, after this event that also meant that Mars lost most of its atmosphere. Remember, in 1998, Hubble took a picture of Mars, and Mars were blue. It had an atmosphere. And this is why I earlier said something about, was it 12,000 years ago there was a catastrophe, or did it happen in the 80s? If a catastrophe happened on Mars in the 80s, it would have meant, for example, a nuclear blast that, or something that's way bigger than that. Remember, technology we know on Earth that we are impressed and mesmerized about are actually Stone Age tools for somebody who's living in an advanced civilization. So there could have been weapons big enough to destroy the whole planet in one go, and we think that's a sci-fi dream. It's not, and I think that was what happened on Mars. And when that happened, the atmosphere slowly started to disappear. The magnetosphere stopped working and blocking sun rays, so the surface became inhabitable. You couldn't live on the surface. The atmosphere, the air basically disappeared. The atmosphere disappeared, so to speak, and is trying to rebuild. But that's what I'm saying about 1998, when Hubble took that famous blue picture of Mars. Was that the last we saw of the atmosphere disappearing after whatever went on in the 80s? And did that mean that if something happened in the 80s, as the rumors are saying, did it mean that they might have had 10 years, knowing in 10 years we will be out of oxygen, we won't be able to be on the surface anymore? Did that mean that they had 10 years to start building in the 80s? And what we see now is what is left after the 80s, and they fled underground. I'm not sure we're ever going to get the answer to it, but I would love to hear what you guys think about the ancient catastrophe theory. When did it happen? Because looking at these pictures from Mars, it looks like something has happened here. And again, in this case, see here, it's all lined up in cracks and blocks here. I think this is artificially created. There could have been a blast here, and then later people came up here and started using the area for what it was, a quarry area, and take the resources they needed, because if there was a blast and all the wrecks was already cracked, it would make them easy to work with, so to speak. But I have my doubts about what really happened here, because to me it looks like a natural area that's been left by those who used it and dug in it. It is amazing to keep on looking at, and there are so much more to be looking at in here. And as I said, this is a huge picture, and if I had to go through it all, it would take me 24 hours just to go through every little square inch of the image. But again, we see those canals here again, and they are basically everywhere, and that was what I was told was mud cracks. But these mud cracks seem to continue up on elevated areas, and some of them seems to have zigzag patterns. So I don't quite believe in the mud crack theory. I believe that we are looking at a site here. Here's a good area. Just look at this. You got something here. You can definitely see this one. It was one big block. Was that a monolith they tried to build, and it basically just ended up being wrong size, and they just left it and made a new one? You can see it was once rock that was chopped up, and as I said before, I think they chopped out the blocks the sizes they needed them, and they transported the blocks straight from here to where they were needed. If you want to make a pillar in a temple, you transported it straight to that temple, a raw block, and then you treated it and made whatever you need to do with the block at the temple, melted it, fused it into whatever it needs to be fused into, tightened onto, fastened to. look over here again, and this is what I said, it looks too artificial created. You got something here like with something on top of the rocks. You see, if there haven't been anybody here and wind the weather conditions have eroded this area over millennia of years, how would all these rocks end up here on top of this one here? If it is rocks, there are something on top here. And what I'm basically saying is that look at all these rocks, there's nothing lying on the rocks because weather condition has basically blown it all clean over years. So there's nothing. Then there comes to a rock like this where there's just suddenly lying something on top of the rock. And I was looking at another orbiter image today of a sand dune. And what I wondered about was on that sand dune, on top of the sand dune, there was a lot of rocks shattered all over a little area. But NASA just told me in that orbiter image, I'll take it up in a minute, that these are moving sand dunes, so they're monitoring to see the movement. Okay, that's fair. So how on earth did those rocks get up on top of the sand dunes? That's worth a thought, because if a sand dune is moving, rocks wouldn't be on top. They would be falling down to the ground. Even if they fell from the sky onto a sand dune, it would be on the top. But as the sand dune moves during the weather condition, it will slowly fall to the ground. So no matter how you twist and turn it, if there are loose rocks on top of a sand dunes, then somebody have an explanation problem, because rocks don't get on top of a sand dune. It's a little bit like having a lake and taking in an old boat, filling it up a little bit with water, so it just floats. It will float for a little while on top, but as the wind blows, the boat will sink. It will take in more water, and it will sink eventually. You got the same thing going on with the sand dunes. If you put a rock on top of a sand dune, the rock will be eaten by the sand dune over time. So you got nothing on top of a sand dune. This is the same I'm saying here. There's so many things lying on top of rocks here. How did those things get up on top of the rocks? There's a lot of questions to be asked, but I don't think there's many people who can actually answer them questions. And there's good morning to everyone from Northumberland. Good morning, Francis Elliott. Yeah, and Mars Anomalies, Chris Maroney. I got one thing to say, he's awesome and he's one of my best friends, so thumbs up to Chris and go visit his channel and say hi from Thomas from Spacelink TV. That would be cool if Chris actually did a little thing about some of my images the other day, and there was a lot of his subscribers that came over to Spacelink TV and said, hey, Chris sent me over here from Mars Anomalies. So wouldn't it be amazing if I could do the same and have you guys go to Mars Anomalies and say, hey Chris, Thomas from Spacelink TV sent us over here to your channel. Go say hello to Chris for me, everybody, please, and remember to subscribe here as well also, and subscribe and get notifications, because I am gonna be live again a little bit more than I've been often. I am currently just about to get settled in a new living situation, so that's why there has been a lack of online and a lack of Mars work lately from Spacelink TV, but we are about to be back here full time again. And again, this is Amazing Mars, and this is what I call the query site. And again, we talked about these mud cracks here that people, NASA said are mud cracks. I do not believe in mud cracks going up and down elevated areas. And if they are mud cracks, why are there almost no rocks in the cracks? See, even here you can see when we are going through the rocks, there's a tiny little rock here. There's one tipping over there on the edge, but in general, all these small tracks are cleared. This is minimal of what there is in there. So if this was a mud crack, there would be rocks in here as well also. Of course there would, thousands of years, and no rocks in the cracks. That's not possible. unless it's on a purpose. But yeah, it is an amazing, and I can keep on moving around on this gigapan from Mars. I am trying to locate some of the thousands of other great anomalies I found earlier and before in this area, but as I said before, it's like taking a big area, like a little city, a little country like Luxembourg, and then look through the whole country in one map. But being able to zoom in, you wouldn't be able to see it all. You wouldn't be able to zoom in on all of Denmark as well. Also, even though you get it out in a size like this, it would take quite a long time. So this is the full image we have here. Over here we have that hole I showed you in the beginning. From the top to the bottom is about 3.5 kilometers. From this side to the other side is about 20-25 kilometers. So it is a huge area we are covering. But there are so much to look at in this area. And this is what I talked about before. It looks like it's organized. Also the way all the rocks are cracked in here. And you can see it. It looks so organized, if you ask me, but that's just my opinions. I wanna show you the other pan I'm working on here, but I gotta go into my little software first to change, or do I? Let me just have a look here. We are on Gigapan here. Oh. And it's been closed. This is straight from NASA's homepage. I'll leave the web URL in the comment on Facebook. And let me see, we're gonna go to this area here. Down here in the bottom. Here is some very good examples of what all these are sand dunes. They are huge sand dunes. And what I talked about before is that you have these sand dunes. Look at this one here. Then you got rocks on top of the sand dunes. A little bit of rocks here on top of the sand dunes. And you can see over here on the edge here where the sand dune is, they're still up on the side of the sand dune. This is the bottom where the rocks should be. There shouldn't be any rocks up here. There shouldn't be rocks here. There shouldn't be rocks here because this is an elevated area. So sometimes you see like over here there are visible rocks lying on top of the sand dunes where there shouldn't be anything. Quite a nice example here as well. And that is straight from NASA's uahighrise.com page. This is the JPEG picture, so we ain't getting it in a high resolution. I'll have to open my software to go into a high resolution picture view. But just saying that in general, when you see something on a sand dune and it looks weird and people think it's just rocks. Yeah, but the question is, how did the rocks get on top of a sand dune? And why are they still on the top of the sand dune? Why haven't they been consumed by the dune? That's a good question. And again, we are looking at this awesome gigapan of Mars. I want to take you back again and see if I can find the little island again, the roundabout, because we talked about all these infrastructure road. It does look like you are looking on a map. It's not a city we are looking at. This is a quarry site. This is a rock site, an area where every single rock has been chopped up, and you don't find like any big really big boulders here. Everything is chopped up into pieces, but I want to get back to where we had that little island again, and so those that just came in can have a look at that again also. But as usual, this is a huge gigapan, and it can be hard to see. Somebody might have spotted it already while I'm still looking. It's right there in the middle. This is one of the photographic evidence, I would say, that there is an infra-connected infrastructure on Mars. This is the closest I can get, but it definitely shows you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 canals, roads, pathways, access ways connected into an island. That is not a coincidence. As I said, also you can see that this one coming from here even has its last turn, so it fits perfectly in between the two other connections. You can even see it turning here to make a perfect connection, and the same with this one here, turning here to make a perfect connection. This one would probably might have been going straight out. It doesn't. It turns and just connects here. The same with this one here. It turns and just connects perfectly here. So I don't think that this is a coincidence. I think we are looking at an area where they use technology just like it what's his name, Escalin from Coral Castle. He had a technique to move big blocks of rocks with anti-gravity that he never really didn't reveal. But if they had the same technology, all they would be needing would be a walkway where they could walk on, and that could be sand, rubble, whatever, as long as it's cleared and you can walk clearly with whatever you are pushing in the air that is hovering due to anti-gravity technology. Imagine you got a pilar weighing 5 tons. That pilar would basically, if you use the technique that was used in Coral Castle, basically lift itself up, hover about a meter in the air, and you would be able to push it with one finger. There would be no resistance. And I think all you need to do that is a pathway, and that's what we are seeing here. We are seeing all these connection pathways going in and out of this area with all these big rocks chopped up. Look at them here, they are big square blocks, and I think that there's a round one here again. You can see it's been chopped up. I think that the whole area here was used for thousands and thousands of years. And it's getting more and more interesting, ain't it? And Susan is saying, I wonder how dense the sand is. Mars has a lower gravity than Earth. So unless that there's more moist in the air, I would probably say that the density is not as much as it is on Earth. Imagine, I remember seeing one of the films from the moon, and you see the dust just going up in the air when they take a step, and you can jump pretty far. I think that unless you got moist in there, the density will be very low, not very high of the sand there. So I don't think it's like compact. You're looking at the surface, and the only compact thing you have on the surface are the actual rocks in there. I don't think the soil and the sand is compact, and I think that's why we also see these sand dunes that NASA are monitoring. Why are they taking 10 pictures of the middle of one crater because there's a sand dune in it? They're doing it to monitor the movement, they say. I think there could be more to it, of course, but I can show you a good example of monitoring on NASA, sand dune monitoring. So if I go out to my browse map here and hope that I don't have to restart it. I have to restart it, but that's okay. This is Mars. And this is where I get my satellite images from. This comes from the University of Arizona that handle all JPL downlink images from Mars Reconnaissance, Mars Global, Mars Express, all of them. The area, here we have the scar on Mars. You can recognize this. This is the globe that's pulled out into a square frame. The area we are looking at is down here. So I'm gonna take you down here. That's where we are now. This is close to Elysium. No, sorry, not Elysium. Hebes Chasma. On Mars, where we have the famous big square formation that's 29 kilometers wide and looks like a square formation. So this is the Mars surface, and I need the... Here we go. These are all the satellites images that are available to the public on NASA's homepage, uahighrise.org. As you can see, you have... Here's a good example. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, stay there. Here's a really good example up here. Let's get a little bit closer. Don't any one of you wonder, when you have the technology to take satellite pictures in a good quality, why haven't they covered the whole crater, so you can get the whole crater in one big mosaic compilation like on a gigapan? Have none of you never wondered about that? Why have they taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 20 pictures, images that are all overlapping in the same area? Why haven't they covered around here? Why haven't they covered up here? Why are they spending so much time on one area monitoring linear gullies and frost? Let's see what the other said. There's another one here. Dune fill within crater. They are monitoring the dunes, monitoring dunes and gillies in Proctor crater. And that could of course be because they are monitoring for activities and movement. But the question is, why are they spending so much effort, time, money and energy on covering this tiny little area here that probably is about 10 kilometers in the black area where the shadow is across something like that, 10 to 15 kilometers? Why are they not covering 50 square kilometers? Because they got enough images here to have been able to cover it all. And this is where I think that something is not right here, because the high-rise image are the best, absolute the best. And when you go in and have a look at them, you get them in high quality. But where they take the high-rise images from is determined from the previous image they took before, which is a CTX context image, which is a wider image that's not very high resolution, but it covers a big area. And on that image you can see what kind of areas you want to look into, and you find an interesting area and say, we're gonna send the high-res camera over here and take a look at this area here, and they do that. Why, when they have covered the whole planet in CTX images? Because that's what you are seeing when you go to Google Mars and zoom in and go in on visible and CTX mosaic. That's what you're getting on the Google Mars, and you get a resolution where everything below 2 meters ain't really visible. Where you in the high-rise catalog, like these we are in here, get a resolution down to 25 centimeters, from 25 to 50 centimeters per pixel, which means that you can see objects that are 25 centimeters big, which basically means if we had a guy walking on the planet Mars and we gave him a, just say a screaming neon color close on, you would actually be able to see a tiny little neon colored dot on the Mars Reconnaissance orbiter image from the high-rise. That is how amazing the cameras are, and this is what I'm saying. Why have they chose to take 20 pictures overlapping the same stupid, silly dunes that they are trying to cover? So I don't know. They've covered the whole planet in CTX images, but not in Mars, in high-rise images, and of course there are a good reason for that. So, but with that, I am gonna just close this one down here. Sorry about that. With that, I'm gonna end up for today. This is my little life for today, and I'll take some more satellite images up tomorrow. Thank you for all the comments there on the comment box. Thank you to Susan and to True Blue, Francis Elliott, and all of you that has been in there today. It's been great to be back again, and I hope you go in and click on subscribe and get notifications. Like, subscribe, and get notifications. That's how we say it. Go in and like, subscribe, get notifications. And remember, go over to Chris Maroney on Mars Anomalies and say hi, Thomas sent me, and hi from Thomas. David Gannett from Mars X3D, and tell them Thomas from Spacelink sent you. Tell them hi. Thank you guys for watching today. This has been great. I'll see if I can be back tomorrow at the same time, but no promises. As I said earlier, I'm in a situation where I'm about to settle in a new facility, so we're doing our best to be back here again. Thank you so much for watching. Until we see you again, take care. Bye.